Welcome back to another episode of Talk Bridal to Me. I am here with Heidi of Mango Inc. She and her husband have this beautiful business, started this business about 18 years ago, and is here to tell us all about it. So welcome, Heidi.
Thank you for having me. This is so great.
Yes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see our little dog, Reese, who doesn't seem to want to be away from mom today. So she is a part of the podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start. I want to talk about what Mango Inc. is and how it got started.
Yeah, Mango Inc. it has had a lot of different answers.
Yes.
In a way, I'd say Mango Inc. is a design creative studio and specializing right now in wedding invitations. And, but we started doing birthday cards kind of, our daughter was turning 1 and we were like, my sister and I were pregnant together. So her little guy was turning 1 at the exact same time.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I said to my husband, I'm going to order these invitations for Anna's birthday. And he's like, I can make us those. And I was like, no, you cannot. And then he just whipped out this design. I didn't even know he really even knew. He worked in game design at the time, but he worked out a birthday invitation for Anna. And then he's like, okay, let's get some cardstock and envelopes and and I was blown away that he did that. And then I Googled, how many invitations does a typical party for a child need? 8. So I started out in packs of 8 is how we did it. And then he said, just let's go ahead and let's have a company. Let's just start Mango Inc. And we Googled, he's like, we love mangoes. He loved mangoes. He lived in Haiti for a couple years. His parents were pastors and traveled all the time. Yeah. And then he said, and then we were like, what else should we call it? So Mango Ink, like the ink that you write with. He goes, in this way, we're not boxed in. We had no idea we were thinking ahead at the time.
Yeah.
But we were. So it could be a printing of some sort. And then a lot of times people think it's a tattoo company. I'm like, that would have been a good name for a tattoo place.
That would be a good name for a tattoo place.
Yeah. So yeah, then then I'd say we did all the design. Then we really launched with holiday cards, and that was how we got our big start, actually. So it was really crazy at the time when we started. There was no internet, There was no social media of any kind. So it was all just word of mouth and trading URLs and stuff like that. And then we decided to do a 50% off holiday card sale for our first time doing holiday cards.
Sure.
And this company in New York did this whole blast to their email group. And at the time it was probably like a $10,000 ad spot to have them do that, but they just did it. And then we got all these clients from New York and California. And that's how Mango Inc. really started which isn't what you asked. You said, what is it? I'm telling you how it started.
Yes, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I love hearing this.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy how we got started. And then to this day, we still have so many of those clients from New York and California so we were working with people. Spokane didn't even order from Mango Inc. at the time. It was all out of our state. It's crazy.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
I love hearing how businesses
it's
get
kind of
started.
Crazy. And it kind of just teaches you to you just go with the flow and you're on for the ride, and sometimes you fizzle out. And in that time, we raised 3 kids. So it ebbed and flowed as far as like the passion that we had for Mango Inc. So it's kind of also an interesting thing about life of how you can start something, catch your breath, let it be, and then kind of just watch it come and go. And if it is your bread and butter, you don't have the luxury of that. But if it's kind of like starts out as like, this could be fun,
right,
then it's kind of different.
Yes, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And you guys have such a neat motto where if I would think about paper products, I would just think, okay, well, it's an invitation. No big deal. Because when I think about invitations, I think Shutterfly, I think all these other quick printing services online, but you really invest in the feeling behind your clients and like what they envision.
Oh, it's everything. If you think about the anticipation of when you receive something in the mail or even if you're going to your favorite band or a headliner of any kind, a comedy show, the thought of you, half of the battle in your brain is the anticipation of just going. So
Yes.
I'm like, when it's this couples, it's this sacred, amazing ritual in our culture that is, and if you think about all the cultures in all the world, I feel like sometimes the American, it's like, well, what are our rituals and culture?
Sure.
But this has stood the test of time as like this moment that two people start a new chapter together. And so they're sending out this, we say it's part of their story. It's who they are. So like the design and the paper, how you feel when you touch it, how it makes you feel when you receive it, how it makes you feel about going to this event. You know the difference when you get something in the mail that you're like, I am not missing this.
Yes.
Versus, I love these people and I'll be there. You know what I mean? There's like this, but there's this like something happens. And then, being in paper for 18 years, we have studied and we know the feeling of this paper versus this paper, this texture, this cotton fiber that's made from leftovers from a textile industry that is no trees were used. You know, it's like it's cotton, and then you put it on our 1895 letterpress. That's like, who has touched this press that's in our possession?
I've seen photos.
It's so rad.
Cool.
Yeah. So it is like, there's so much love and warmth, and Ryan and I are obsessed with story. And so part of your invitations is funny. It's an industry thing of like, even if way back in the day it was like, here's your budget for getting married.
Totally.
It's never on there. And I'm like, but it sets the tone.
It does.
So, and you don't have to break the bank to set the tone. You
Totally.
know? So but give it some thought of like, who are you? What is this union? Even when I think of a monogram, I get all woo woo about like these two letters, like intertwining. They're touching somehow. Sometimes there's a lake involved that was a foundation to their core of like how they met. Well, then when we do a design of like, let's say it's Lake Coeur d'Alene and the monogram letters are touching the lake, I'm like, I just feel like there's something happening here that's like really beyond understanding of like, this is two people, this is graphic design mixed with paper, and we're a creative studio, which means, you know, if you have a crazy idea you've seen out there, we love to brainstorm and make it come to life. So we have so much fun.
So fun. Well, and you have such a design aesthetic, and I've seen your work all over, whether it's, you know, from other photographers' work and them shooting your invitation as part of the flat lay. There's so much texture involved and so much thought into the juxtaposition of what that is. And it like ties in the whole wedding and gives invitees, if you will, kind of a way of knowing what to expect.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because it's yes.
Yes.
And then all the way through. So that's the first thing you see is this invitation to this epic union of something big is about to go down.
Yes.
This is the biggest party of their life. And you were asked, you got one in the mail. I also think we minimize, if you made a guest list, what that means to that couple.
Right.
It's like you were on that guest list. They did not just it's expensive to put you on a guest list, you know? And so receiving it is one thing, being asked to be to witness it and to be a part of it. And then the love that the couple's putting into the party. It's like when you show up, there's this welcome sign. There's a menu that your name might be at the place setting. It doesn't have to be, but it might be. And the love and intention that comes all the way through is not lost on us, because we're like, this is a big deal.
Yes.
That guest is here. This is the menu that was picked out. There's just so many intricacies it's just it's a living being to us, this part of branding yourself as a couple. Basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of like a ball of yarn. You know, when you pull that first little string out at the beginning, like the invitations are the first string as to what's to come.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, because I know when my husband and I got married, we're like, okay, we need invitations. Like clearly that's the first step. But then we realized we have to have an understanding of what our wedding is going to look like. how we want it to feel, the design aesthetic, the colors, the tones.
Yep.
So what do you need from a bride and a groom or a couple to be able to design a perfectly curated invitation?
Yeah, great question. It's more, yes, we need to know, we'd love to know colors, like where are we going? What's the feeling? Our first question is, which I just had a meeting with a client and we changed our process a smidge, that enough that I forgot to ask my most important question is like, how do you want your guests to feel when they open your invitation? Yes. But also, what's the feeling? What's the vibe? What's the vision for the wedding day? Because is it a barn, overlooking a lake? Is it there's so much that the venue, the setting does reflect on the invitations enough for us to be like, we don't want to send a message of it's this glittery gold black tie situation. And then really the guests are showing up at a barn by the lake and it's elevated. Yes, but that didn't match,
right.
So that factors in, and subconsciously even probably more than we know, it's just part of the whole process. So the intake, we ask those questions.
Yes.
Where are you getting married? What's the vision? How do you want your guests to feel? How is the venue? Do we love this venue? Is this a big part of it? Is the venue just like, no, that's not a big part of it. What's a big part of it is our story or this ferry boat that we grew up taking. And that's the headliner for the wedding invitation. We're going to hand draw the Washington State ferry boat, something like that.
I love that. So you're bringing the past and the future into the present moment and allowing those to mesh.
Totally. In fact, little subtle things. This is why a stationery is different than just quickly popping onto a big box store and filling it out. A stationery is listening, and there are talented stationers across the country. I'm friends with them. That's why if you come to us to say, can you make this design? We probably know the stationery and we'll probably say you should order from the stationery. But where was I going? Oh, so a client, we have like, how did you meet? We want little nuggets of little things. Well, this one part of their story was that they got engaged in Bali and the only witness to their engagement was this gecko that was, sitting the whole night. They're like, this gecko was sitting there the whole night. So then on the save the dates, we haven't even gotten to the invitations, but I said, can I put a little gecko? It'll just be, you guys will just know.
Yes.
But can we put a little gecko in the corner? She was like, I didn't even think of that. Yes.
Oh.
So that's like, it's so exciting. And also symbolism and meaning that maybe only the couple knows.
Yeah.
But it's everything because this is their day anyway. So,
it's just, goodness. I love that.
Yeah, it's so fun to be a part of. It's truly an honor. And when people trust us with that, we don't take it lightly. It's a whole thing. I do wake up at night. How am I going to get the gecko on there? Like things like that. Like we get very into it. It's really fun.
I understand.
Yeah, you do.
I'll lay there at night going, okay, how can we make this work? We want to incorporate this and these tones, but
totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's part of being a creative. It's a blessing and a curse.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yes. Regarding your primary philosophy, do you kind of have one when it comes to design, or where do you find inspiration? Like, I kind of want to talk about that and go that direction.
So good. I love it. It's everywhere. It's very, I'd say, we went to, our son studied abroad in Sweden.
Fun.
So one Christmas, our whole family went to Sweden, and the design, the Scandinavian Nordic design has always just been such a draw. And it's because of its minimal, it's just clean, clean lines, pops of color, and typography heavy from our perspective. There's so many different ways to see it, but that's how we see it. We're influenced by, Japanese design. Bless you.
Dog sneezes.
Yeah, so much influence. But really, it's just a mishmash of our whole life of what we keep being drawn to. Watching a movie, I was obsessed with Cruella. Have you seen it?
Oh, I haven't seen the movie, but I need to.
You will die. The colors, the design, as a makeup artist, as a creative, the just the whole vision that I watched it twice and I said, I need to make, for no other reason, but a Cruella inspired wedding suite. I haven't done it.
How fun.
But like something where can we light something on fire when they open the box? Like you just want to let your mind go crazy because it's so good. And
how fun.
so yeah, even cooking,
Yeah.
there's just inspiration comes from everywhere.
Yep.
But I'd say primarily Scandinavian Nordic design is like, and my dad's Swedish. So I like, well, that's in me. And
that
Ryan
makes sense.
is so jealous because he has none of it. He wants to be, Scandinavian so bad. He's not.
He could just pretend.
He just pretends. He's honorary. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Do you have a primary goal or two when it comes to your clients?
Yeah. It's even if they don't book with Mango Ink, any interaction with us, I want them to know that they were seen, that they matter, that their union is epic, that they've chosen each other. It's just no light thing to commit to somebody and say like, you're my person.
Yes.
So just to feel, for every interaction to feel that. And then the primary goal, if we get lucky enough to work with them, is to bring their personalities and their future selves together and kind of represent them. The best compliment is when they write and say, everyone who received our invitation said, this is so you guys. And it's crazy how we can start with we call them like a semi-custom. We can start with something pretty where people get confused. Like, do I have to stick with this?
Right.
No, these are recipe ingredients. This, and this can all be together and there's no custom fee. It's still custom. It's confusing. It's still totally you guys, but how a different design can change to each couple. And it started with the same ingredients. It truly amazes me. Even like a custom design map. I'm like, this could be the same map for this person, but that never is. They're always so unique and different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing cookie cutter.
No, nothing cookie cutter. And then also just the piece, I want them to trust all of our years of experience of verbiage, of communicating things that are, if you're sitting down and trying to design your invitation yourself, which some people love to do, and I love that for them for sure. I would probably be that way because I don't know how to separate myself from being a stationaire and wanting to do my own invitations. I don't know how to separate that.
Absolutely.
But just wording the things, the etiquette, just little, and then also forgetting etiquette. We love to be rebellious too, but just knowing the foundation takes so much off their plate. I want them to say, I trust you. They have so much to think about that it's nice for them to come to a vendor and say, here's what I want to do, but I can't do it. And all we do is prompt them. Here's what we need from you. We got the rest,
Yes.
Yeah. So to feel lighter and that they can breathe, because there's just so much. We're so busy out here in this world.
Oh my gosh.
Planning a wedding's no joke.
I know even as a makeup artist, they come to me with an inspiration photo or 5 and we break them each down. What do you like about this photo? Do you like the blush? Do you like the tones? Let's talk about your dress. Let's talk about the jewelry, the shoes, the aesthetic of the day. Are you getting married in the glass house? Are you getting married, on a family farm? Like, what is it going to look like? And sometimes you get that deer in the headlights look and I'm like, I'm just here to help guide you. And then we're going to work on this together.
Yes.
But even just as one vendor, that's a lot of questions I'm asking them.
It's so true. So they're getting so we send a little kickoff form and I'm like, oh, they're getting a lot of kickoff forms from a lot of vendors. It's true.
Oh, yeah. And then it's like, okay, I understand it's going to take you a few weeks to get back through all of these.
Exactly.
It's a lot of decisions.
It's a lot of decisions. Sometimes it's easier for them to start with what they don't like.
Yes.
Then that gets us down. Okay, we can eliminate a lot of things. I'm sure you see that too.
Yes.
Like, well, I don't like that. Okay. Then we know
exactly
that we're going to go this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say a bride comes to you regarding her wedding invitations. Walk us through a little of what that process looks like from initial inquiry all the way to when their invitations are delivered.
Yes, it's a little step-by-step process. So you're browsing Mango Ink. You have your Pinterest board. You've pinned a lot of things, and you've pinned hopefully some Mango Ink things.
Yeah,
that's always a surprise. I'm like, yes, we made a Pinterest board. Yeah, so you fill out this little form online, an inquiry form. You're interested. You just give us some tiny bits and nuggets of what we need to know. Then the next step is we book a phone call or a Zoom or an in-person, depending on where they live. And then we go over, we bring out the wedding suites that they liked, or we talk about their inspiration, all the things on the board that they liked, didn't like, what do you like, not like. And then we kind of just come up with like what they're thinking. We need to know household number, not how many people. We're the only vendor that asks household. So at first they're like, we need, 250. And I'm like, but how many? But a lot of people share a household. So it's a different number they have to, oh gosh. So it's about 60 to 75% of your guest count, which is a general rule. And then we'll go over the printing methods. Do you have to have letterpress? Do you know what letterpress is? If you clients who come to us are like, oh, I have to have letterpress. They understand, they know what they're saying. Some say, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And
I would be that person.
Yeah. I mean, and I would have been too back in the day of like, and letterpress means it's the only way to achieve this print method, but it's like, it's an antique press. It's pressing into the paper. So if you touch a paper that feels like there's something happening to the font, to the text, it's pressed in, that's letterpress. If there's a pressed in floral design with no ink, that's letterpress. If it's raised up, if it's like popping up, that's embossed. And that's also done on a letterpress machine.
Yes.
And then foil is also done on a letterpress machine.
Cool.
So those are all like those fancy things that you can get when you're talking to us, like what do you have to have, what do you not have to have? And often either they have to, or they say, I don't even know what that is. And then they touch it and they go, but I do. Yes, I do. Or actually, I just want to save as much money as I can.
Sure.
And we do all digital printing. We still print it on double thick paper.
Yeah.
So there's still something happening when their guests receive it, but it does cut the cost down because it's not a letterpress is expensive because of the paper and because it's hand done.
Wow.
It's fed one by one onto a machine and everything's and then cut in-house perfectly. So there's a lot of steps. That's why it's expensive. It's not because anyone's being a brat. It's just a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
It's time.
Yeah. So we narrow down printing methods and then we send a proposal. And then once that proposal looks good, which we tell them all the time, it's a working proposal, just because you said you wanted a ribbon bundle, but we changed our mind in the design process. We just take it off the invoice. There's nothing stuck, but $250 deposit holds your spot.
There you go.
And then when we start design, half is due, the last is due from that. But in between, we have a month of design time where we go back and forth. We send proofs of everything. They're very lifelike. They look, you get it. You see the envelope with the actual flap. It's not just flat digitally shown to you. So it helps to see textures that are going to show up. And then once we get to the spot where it's like, this is everything I've ever wanted. This is, you've fulfilled our dreams. Let's print. And then we say we need 3 to 4 weeks in production.
Perfect.
Just for all the little things. And then we want you to have them in your hands 3 months before your wedding.
Yeah.
The typical rule is 6 to 8 weeks. And then if it's destination, we talk to every client and we can adjust this timeline based on when they want them to go out. And then after those are out and mailed and it's happening, it's always like, this is real now. These are in the mail. We're really getting married. Then we start to talk about the day of design, which is your wedding welcome sign, your menus, your seating charts, anything like that. And it's all cohesive. So it's going to connect to the monogram that was on your invitations and the color scheme and the fonts. And your guests are going to show up saying, I know where I am. And it's so intentional and it feels so good to be a part of something so tied together.
Yes. It reminds me of like a branding photo shoot or a branding element because you get that first initial taste and then it carries through.
Yeah, it is. We're basically branding a client for their wedding day.
Yes.
It's true. We say all the time, weddings are branding jobs.
Yes.
In that way of like, And then that monogram of theirs they get to own we give them the monogram. They can put it on old school towels. Remember grandmas used to get their sheets with their wedding monogram. Like, let's do this. Let's bring it back.
The pillowcase. I remember that.
It's like monograms were everything back in the day. So, but our clients get their monogram and then if they do a wax seal, they get to keep their wax seal. We always include a packet for a full perfect wedding suite for their photographer and their keepsake. So they can take it to their wedding day and their photographer can do the flat lays with everything that they need. So yeah, we just try to make sure like, okay, there's so many things they can't think of, but they're not going to want to go dig out their wedding suite and throw it in their bag.
No, absolutely. Well, I love that you guys do that.
Yeah.
So neat.
Yeah. Thanks.
When it comes to the actual wedding day verbiage, I know there's some hurdles and sticking points that people have. For example, like how do you politely say no kids or give a dress code for the wedding? What are some little nuances that like you can finesse the wedding cards to make it sound good?
There's a lot. The kids are such a big thing. And I've learned as I've aged that you can't assume people can read your mind.
Sure.
And we often wish they could. And so if you're hoping that family won't bring all their children, we have to come up with ways to be very clear and very beautiful about it too. Yeah. So that's such a great point about kids. That's a big one. There's a couple ways, like we can say at the end of every, like we'd have a little enclosure card with like what's happening. And then on the bottom of that, while we love your little ones, this is an adult only affair. Or, space is limited, our venue due to limited space, it's adults only, or you can say 18 and older. There's so many ways, but we have like about 50 options of how do we want to communicate this? Sometimes you can just be cute and fun. Like, we know you need a night off. Leave those little ones at home.
There you go.
There's just lots of ways to say that. Other ways to be clear of your guest count, because that's a big thing. Like your venue can only have so many people.
Absolutely.
So you can say on your RSVP card, or if you're just sending them to your website, we can also put this on the enclosure card, but we've reserved, and then there's a blank line. So like, for like seats for you at the table. So it's kind of like, hey, Ryan and Heidi, Mr. and Mrs. Miller are on the invitation. Then we open it up and it says we've reserved 2 seats for you. So it's very clear from the beginning, Ryan and Heidi are only invited.
Yes.
Then there's 2 seats, which means, okay, we can't bring our children.
Yeah.
And that has happened to our own family where we've had close friends and family close friends and family get married who said it's only, adults, and our kids were so crushed. But we were like, but everybody's okay. So like, it's also like, it's okay to say no kids and everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So like they're sad and then they get over it real quick. So yeah, there's that way. And then, the way modern websites are too, you can specify exactly who's invited. So it's very clear. If you go to the website, it's like, oh, Ryan and Heidi, or it'll pull up the whole family's invited. Yeah. And then you can say who's coming. Yes. So it's really easy. It's getting better and better to say that, to be able to guide that. But I always say, this is your epic day. This is your dream. Don't feel bad about not having kids there. And kids are great for a lot of reasons. And they're not the vision and the vibe for most fancy parties. Yeah. They just don't need to be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a tricky one. Sometimes there's tricky, we help with like, if there's a divorce, if there's a parent who's passed, how to say that on the invitation, there's tricky family scenarios that need to be written out well. So we handle all of that. I'm trying to think what else is a tricky thing to navigate. Sometimes there's everyone's invited to the wedding, but not everyone's invited to the reception. That's another. So there's ways to get around that. There's just so many different little nuances out there and different scenarios that come up. But kids is definitely a great.
That's the
great
big one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Heidi. Yes. I appreciate this is so good. Like, who knew invitations could be so beautiful and so vital, and it just makes me so excited.
I'm so glad.
I'm like, I need to throw a party now because I need those in my hands.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, even nowadays, everything's so digital for good reason, and it's very great. But like if you are going to do something really special, just do the invitations. Everyone loves to get something in the mail. So yeah, it's really special.
It is. My goodness. Well, where can listeners find you online?
Oh, they can find me on Instagram, Mango Inc. _Mango_Inc. We have our website, mangoinc.com. We also do like logos and branding and stuff like that. So any small businesses who are ready to also have that same magic translated into their personal brand, we love to do that. What else? I think that's where Mango Inc. is right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Anna. You're the best.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Talk Bridal to Me. I hope you have a day where you truly feel beautiful. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.